I suck at playing piano. Hi, hello, greetings. If you haven't guessed by the title of the video, I'm gonna teach you some things about modding for Half-Life 1. Today we're gonna be setting up our level editor for Half-Life. But before that, we need it to get everything... English. But before that, we need to get everything we need to make this happen. So... getting what we need. First of all, you'll need Half-Life, which I assume you already have since you're viewing this video. But if you don't, then you must have a lot of weird stuff in your recommended section. If you don't, then you can get it off Steam for like 10 buckaroonies. Now we need a level editor to make our map. Now you could just go into the tools section of your Steam library and use the Half-Life SDK as your level editor. But I'd advise against using it, since it's pretty old and you'd probably be more prone to running into problems with it than using an alternative that's more recent. So here's a list of alternative level editors. There's Sledge, J.A.C.K, and the Valve Hammer editor. There's probably some other, but these are just the ones I know about. I personally use J.A.C.K, and I'll be using J.A.C.K in this video. J.A.C.K can also make maps for Quake, Quake 2, Quake 3, Hexen 2, and I think some others. But today we're using it for Half-Life. I haven't used Sledge, but I imagine it's a little bit like J.A.C K, and I only use Valve's Hammer editor for source games, and I'm pretty sure it can do Goldsource as well, but Hammer is also kinda old, so that's another thing to consider. And they all pretty much work in the same way of making maps. So if you're using Sledge and I'm using J.A.C K, then it shouldn't be that different. Probably some minor changes here and there, but not a lot. And the final thing on our grocery list are compiler tools. These are needed to make the map in-game. Think of it like the smart kid in class that does other people's homework. He does all the math and calculations so you don't have to. And that's pretty much the purpose of the compiler tools. They do all the math to make your map work in-game. I personally use ZHLT compiler tools, also called ZHLT. You can use the compiler tools that came with your editor, in this case it's J.A.C K, but I'm pretty sure J.A.C K just gives you the original compilers from the game, and it's always good to use something more recent, but don't quote me on that because that could be wrong. I'll put links for everything in the description down below. Alright, so we got our level editor open now. So go into Tools, Options, and then the configuration window should pop up. Go to Game Profiles, and for J.A.C K, configures your level editor for your games that you want when installing it. But what if you have another level editor and then have that option? Alright, now you're stuck with nothing. So we're going to make another Half-Life game profile. So click Edit, click Add, and then you could call it anything you want, really. But, you know, you can call it Half-Life, but for tutorial's sake, I'm gonna call it Jazz. Because why not? Alright, so now it should just be this very blank thing. So in game data profiles, click Add, and then go to your level editor folders. It should open automatically. In the J.A.C K level editor, there's a folder called Half-Life, where inside it is your compilers and your FGD files. For game data files, you want the FGD files. The FGD files that are in here is Half-Life, Opposing Force, and ZHLT. Since we're doing just a Half-Life one, just like vanilla Half-Life rather than Opposing Force, we'd get Half-Life FGD, click Add again, and then get ZHLT FGD. An FGD file is basically where the game pulls its entities from. What's an entity? Entities are things like, say, weapons on the ground, or Half-Life 1 zombies, or doors and stuff. Those are your entities, and the game pulls that from the FGD file. Now, a default point entity class, just to make life a little easier, I'd click the drop down and find info player start, because info player start is basically just a spawn point, and that's just for making life easier. So go to directories, and there should be these 5 fields of emptiness. The first one is game executable, and what that wants the Half-Life exe from the Steam folders, and your Steam folders are program files, Steam apps, Common, and Half-Life, and you'd be looking in there a lot of times for this stuff. So go to Steam apps, Common, Half-Life, and then inside Half-Life scroll all the way until you reach HL.exe, Half-Life launcher. Alright, base game directory. What that's looking for is the Valve folder, which is in the Half-Life thing again. So just do the same thing, Steam apps, Common, Half-Life, and then inside the Half-Life folder, there should be another folder called Valve. So Steam apps, Common, Half-Life, and Valve. And then once you open up Valve, hit select folder, and then you're done so for that one. Mod directory, that's if you're doing something like making maps for a mod. Like if you're making maps for Counter-Strike or Team Fortress Classic, you'd set the mod folder up for where the mod is, but we're not doing a mod, we're just doing vanilla Half-Life, so we're just gonna keep that one blank. Source maps directory is where the level editor is gonna save its maps. Inside the Valve folder, there should be a folder called maps, so select maps and then select folder. Model viewer, that's kind of like an iffy thing for me, because I didn't really need to fill out this field. The models just showed up fine, but if you really want a model viewer, then just look up on Google. I'm sure you could find a Half-Life model viewer, and then you just set it up to where it's the .exe of that model app. Go to textures, and then you see it's empty, and we can't have no map without no textures. So hit add files, and then inside your Valve directory, there should be these WAD files, and those WAD files are your textures, because Half-Life has all its textures inside WAD folders. The texture WADs we're going to be picking out are the Half-Life, Liquids, Xeno, and Decals texture WADs, since those are the main ones that are used to make any Half-Life map. And then after you're done setting all those up, then we're gonna head up to setting up our compilers. So go to build programs, and you should see more empty thingamabobs. Your compiler tools are made out of these 4 things. There's HLCSG, HLBSP, HLViz, and HLRAD. And compiler tools don't have to be saved in the Half-Life folder. If you want, you could save it in the editor, save it on your desktop, or even save it in a folder where your roommate keeps all his weird pictures of lamps. Why would you want to do that? So just fill out each of these fields by clicking the ellipses button right next to it, and browse it to its corresponding thing. So CSG executable would be HLCSG, BSB executable will be HLBSB, Viz executable will be HLViz, and light executable will be HLRAD, because lighting is rad. And once you're done filling out all the things and build programs, then you're done. You're done, and your level editor is ready to make maps. Next time we'll be going over how to actually use the editor to make some spicy stuff. And also, don't forget to go to 2D views and check this box. It's really important, and you need it, and you're gonna love it. And we'll get into it more the next time.